everybody, and welcome back to Inky Thoughts podcast. Today is, as always, a special episode, and I'm quite excited because this is actually an area where, as a sociologist, when I started researching tattoos many, many years ago, this was already a hot topic, and it's still very interesting and quite important, to say the least, actually, what we're going to talk about today. And I won't give too much away about the topic because it will make a lot of sense, I promise you, as soon as we get into talking about it. But not to beat around the bush, which is a different area of the anatomy, honestly, at this point. But oh, sorry about that. That was the Danish coming out. But my guest today is to reveal a little bit of the first two artists hired by the NHS. And you might think, why would the NHS hire two artists? But that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Why do we do that? Before I ramble on, embarrass myself any further, or get myself a Me Too case on my neck, please, Tanya, would you introduce yourself?
Wow, what an introduction to it. So yeah, I'm Tanya Buxton. I'm a tattoo artist based in the UK. I own Paradise Tattoo Studio in Cheltenham, and I tattoo in all areas basically. So I do traditional tattoos, I do cosmetic tattoos, what they call sort of permanent makeup, and I also specialize in medical tattooing, which is more widely known for creating like 3D realistic nipple tattoos for people after sort of mastectomy surgeries or gender affirming surgeries or any kind of surgery that might have affected the breast or chest area.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like medical tattooing, as much as it's been up in the media, both here in Denmark and in the US and the UK, sometimes I feel people don't understand the actual scope of it sometimes, because it can be
Yeah.
anything from, for example, what you do there, but also scar coverage after for burn victims and stuff like that, or any other form of trauma. Technically speaking, when you look at it from a more social scientific perspective, even if you, for example, let's say you got stabbed and you want to cover that up, that scar, that's still in a way, at least from a mental health perspective, a medical tattoo to some extent, because it's trying to help you move on from that trauma, which is a lot of what you do,
Yeah,
especially with
like
a
absolutely. I
lot of
think
this.
it's not just about like the tattoo that that the person gets at the end. It's so much more than that. Like you
Mm,
say, it's the impact it has on their like self-esteem and their body confidence and their mental well-being. Um, I feel like the nipple tattooing is sort of the big one that's
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
known for, but there are so many other things that can be done with tattooing that I feel kind of fall under the medical
Mm,
umbrella, if you like. And I think by sort of medical tattooing, it is that more specialized
mm,
area, if you
yeah.
like. You're working on compromised skin or traumatized skin, different, varieties of scar tissue, particularly like with breast cancer and things. You have breast cancer treatments like chemotherapy and radiotherapy that have all impacted the skin in some kind of way. So it's not like a straightforward tattoo,
No.
if you like. There's just sort of more to it, physically and then like emotionally as well, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot more specialized in my eyes. Um, but I love how clever it is, and I've loved going down this road. It's not something I thought I would have gone down
No?
with tattooing. But I couldn't imagine it any other way now.
You didn't
It's
see areolas in your future when you started out
no, I didn't see
your
nipples in
apprenticeship.
my future. It was funny, really. Like I always wanted to do the
Yeah.
cosmetic tattooing. I always
All
wanted to
right. Okay. So that
be
was like something in the area, you could say. I know it's quite different in some aspect, but it
yeah.
is at least, in over that sort of area, I would argue.
Yeah, and I think I've always loved like sort of makeup and like beauty and like making people feel good as well. So like the
Oh.
cosmetic thing was something I always wanted to do anyway. It kind of combined both my interests, like my love for
Hmm.
tattooing and my love for like makeup and stuff as well. So even as a tattoo apprentice, I knew I always wanted to branch into the cosmetic tattooing, but like tattooing was my first love. So it was like a good sort of 5, 6 years into my career that I branched into the cosmetic side of things. And I worked with scar tissues and stuff from like the real beginning of my
All
tattooing
right.
career, to
Wow.
be
That's
honest.
really wild.
Yeah, yeah, I was sort of quite fortunate in that way that I gained that experience quite early. So I've always been very aware of like how tattooing can help people on all these different levels, if you
Hmm.
like. But it wasn't until I did the cosmetic tattooing that it opened me up to this different type of clientele, like a
Oh,
clientele
right,
that
yeah.
wouldn't necessarily walk into a tattoo studio because it fell under the beauty umbrella, if you like.
That is
Um,
quite an interesting point you're pointing out there, because that's probably, thinking about it with my own, background in sociology, that's probably part of why areola tattoos are still more popular for breast cancer survivors, for example. Because even though you could achieve some of the same effect, I would argue sociologically, by having just a scar covering tattoo of some kind, it doesn't need to necessarily be an areola. For a lot of people, they never wanted a tattoo; they just want to return to normalcy.
yeah,
So the
yeah.
areola tattoo is what's going to help them do that more.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't like the word normal, but it
No,
is
neither do I,
it
but
is
for
used
the
a
lack of
lot.
a better
Yeah.
term.
People just want to feel normal again, whether
Yeah.
that, a normal can be a positive thing as well, because it can be your normal, not the conformative normal, if
No,
you
exactly.
like.
Oh, that, I mean, but for both of us being part of the tattoo world, we don't normally like the word normal, and then we've said it so many times.
Yeah, but it is how it's described a lot, particularly, with the medical tattooing and the nipple tattooing side. People do just want to feel like
Yeah.
themselves again.
There, I mean,
Um,
that's what they argue about, both in medical and sociological and social scientific journals, about, tattoos after trauma. There's often, we talked about this a bit before the interview as well, this reclaiming of identity, because there can, with a lot of different kinds of trauma, both breast cancer, accidents where you might lose a limb or get a massive scar from a burn as well, there can be a loss of a sense of identity, of a sense of
yeah,
self, because people
absolutely.
don't often grasp just how much our embodiment means to our sense of self before they
Yeah.
might lose control over it.
And I think until something like that is taken away from you, it is difficult to. Sorry, it's my dog shaking in the
That's okay. You
background.
can have a bit of a nosy.
Um, yeah, I think until it kind of happens to you,
Hmm.
you can't fully identify with like how that would make you feel. And I think it's sort of it's not just the fact that your nipples have gone, it's all these other things that you may not have even
Hmm.
considered. Like, people don't want to get undressed in front of their partner anymore because they feel conscious, or they don't want to take their kids swimming because they don't want to get changed in the changing rooms. Just, all these things that when you've got your nipples, like you wouldn't have considered to be a big deal. And like the same with anything, I've tattooed like webbed toes, like
Yeah.
creating a little 3D illusion so it looks like their toes are separated. That is the teeniest, tiniest
That
tattoo
is
in the
actually
world.
one I never thought I would hear.
I do it
That
quite
that
a
is
lot,
quite
to be
cool though, but
honest.
I've never heard of that one before actually.
Yeah,
I've
I've
seen it.
done
I've
quite
seen
a
one getting a
few.
cut here line in on web toast once. But
But
that's a
it's sort of
different way
it's
of
how you
handling it, to be
feel, isn't
honest.
it? If
Yeah.
you're conscious of something, like
Yeah.
yeah, I had a client who's never gone out without socks on because of their webbed toe.
Yeah, but
And
that's
like most people probably
exactly the
wouldn't even
point. Yeah.
notice it, but it's there. And I think that's what it boils down to about the whole normal thing, I guess. It's not you're not you're not doing it to like make society feel more comfortable with how your body looks. Like you're doing it for you. It's how you feel.
Well, in a way, absolutely. But it is sadly often with most people, I think a distinction there might often be when people go for for lack of a better term, more creative solution, where it might not be replicating what was there before, but doing something else to beautify the area. Then there's often
Yeah.
less of that idea of conforming to a societal standard, where for other people, and this is no fault of their own, it is just so ingrained in them, this socially constructed idea of a normal body, that they want to return towards that, for both for their own sake, but also to feel accepted and lose that stress of feeling different, or feeling judged, or feeling well, yeah, lost.
Yeah.
But I would say, for more so than anything, it is for themselves. It
Yeah.
is for their comfort more than
I think
anything.
the reasons can be very complex, can't
Oh,
they?
absolutely,
Like you
absolutely.
say, the whole, the normal for
Yeah.
society, if you like, because you do, if someone doesn't look normal, like
Mhm.
you do look, even as a tattooed person, like
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
looked at. Most of the time it's out of curiosity.
Yeah.
But that is something that I do hear quite a lot with my clients, is that they, if they're getting changed in the gym or whatever and they're taking their top off, they just don't want, at that first glance, no one would look again.
Yeah.
That's I hear that a lot as
I think
well.
there's a similarity to this, and sadly, there never came much of this other than a presentation at a conference once. But I once did a research project with a dermatologist about people with psoriasis and how they use tattoos. And the fascinating thing that kept coming up, even though they didn't say it directly, but I sort of said it between the lines, was that they wanted something to take attention away from the psoriasis and have people look at them, but look at them with more curiosity rather than disgust. So they want
Yeah.
to sort of take control of the narrative they show off through their body in a way. And I thought that was beautiful. There was this whole
Yeah.
idea of regaining control of their embodied identity, which I recognize in a lot of this stuff,
Yeah,
which I can
absolutely.
absolutely understand.
Yeah. I think tattooing gives that to people on like
Yeah.
loads of different levels as
Well,
well.
even
Not
without trauma, absolutely. Like it gives
Yeah,
people a
I was
sense of
just going to say
control.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
think
would love a book by a sociologist I know from Wolverhampton, I think it was Wolverhampton, called Michael Rees, Tattooing in Contemporary Society, where he talks about this hunt, I think he calls it, for authenticity, the search for authenticity that we do through tattoos. But I think that's just exacerbated even more when you lose control of it through a traumatic experience. You then strive even more to be who you want it to be and to regain that
yeah.
sense of having control of your appearance.
We obviously as tattoo artists, we hear all sorts of stories as to
Oh, absolutely.
why you want to get tattooed, or some people just get tattooed because they like it and it looks
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there are some real deep reasons that people do want it. It could be you're grieving like a loved one and you want to mark that with a tattoo, or you are conscious of some cellulite or stretch marks on your body
Yeah.
and you want to disguise it with a nice tattoo, or you've just come out of a traumatic abusive
Mm,
relationship and this is a new chapter and this is what you want to do for yourself now, or you've overcome breast cancer and are celebrating the fact you're still here and you're thriving, and this is what you're going to do for yourself. I
yeah.
just think there's so many reasons and so many like levels to tattooing. It's not just
Oh,
this like surface layer as well. There's all this other stuff. And I think that's what I love so much about it, is that
mm,
it gives people things on so many levels. You could have alopecia and then you have your eyebrows tattooed on
mm.
and you're a totally different person. Like there's just all these amazing reasons and options that tattooing can give people. And I absolutely love it. Like I love doing all the
I
fun
absolutely,
stuff.
I can get
Well,
behind that. I love that
yeah.
stuff too. Like
And
that's,
I love exploring all this stuff as well, and
mm,
just all these ways that it can help people. And like I started doing the nipple tattooing about 4 or 5 years ago now, and it is just absolutely snowballed. And I've just loved every minute of it. Like, and
but I
it's
mean,
took me down a road
even
of
the
all
NHS has
things.
recognized the amount of help it does for people, how it assists people in getting over the trauma when they want to hire you to do it
Yeah.
there. You know, there's some real science behind how much this helps people.
Yeah, absolutely. You're literally changing somebody's life. And I think the bit I love as well, and I think it gets overlooked, it's not just the person who's had the tattoo whose life you've
Mm.
changed. It's this whole ripple effect as well.
Yeah,
It's the partner, it's the kids, it's the
yeah.
family.
They
Like
might
when that
get
person
that special
feels
person back by them feeling more like themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Like the amount of messages I've had, from husbands being like, you've given me my wife back. Or, women will be like, I've finally, I don't feel like I've got to lock the door to have a shower because I don't want my kid to like, accidentally walk in and see me because I don't have nipples, and I don't want to have to explain what that means. And
Mm.
and now I can just take a shower and not have to worry about it and feel more comfortable in front of my children and just all these things. And they finally join the gym because they feel like they can get changed again, and it's
But
just incredible. Like,
it's very true what you say. It's because we don't live in a vacuum. It's not just for the person. It's also, and I especially love the last point you point out there, because it also can make them brave enough and feel brave enough again to go out and socialize more, to build up
yeah,
a social life again. Because especially when you go through something as harrowing as cancer treatment, you can get so isolated.
yeah, yeah.
So it's
And I
amazing that you
think
can
as
help
well,
them with
it's
that.
sort of with the breast cancer side of things. um a lot of things are took away from you. A lot of choices are
Mm,
took away from you. Like you're given your treatment plan.
mm.
This is what we're going to do. This is the treatment we're going to do. And it's a huge whirlwind, and it's an amputation at the end of the day. A
Mm.
mastectomy is an amputation. And
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of grief and mourning, like you mourn who you were before, like you mourn the body you used to have. Like there's real complex traumatic emotions
right.
behind that I feel like from the feedback from my clients, that isn't really like supported and unpicked
Aye.
for people. I think they're given their treatment, their life is saved, and then off they go, sort of
Yeah.
thing. And you're
People
kind of
forget the mental health aspect of it sometimes, and the after effect. That
yeah,
they think
yeah,
your life is safe now, so you must be right as rain. But that's not how things work. There's a lot of
no.
aftermath from going through something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think tattooing plays a really important part in
Mm.
it. Obviously, it's a small part in the scheme of things, but it does play an important
Yeah,
role in like a person's healing journey. And I personally think it needs to be spoke about more. More
absolutely. I
awareness needs to
fully
be
agree.
raised. Loads of people still don't even know this is an option.
It's strange, isn't it? Because I mean, I find it perhaps even stranger still, which might be baffling, but it's because I've been reading about this in journals, throughout my education that are older than I am. Some of these journals, and they've been talking about how this reconstruct, mainly in the older ones, talking about reconstructive nipple tattooing, but still they talk about how this helps get over the hump of recovery. It helps them
Yeah,
get into this groove again of normalcy is often what they talk about, like what we spoke about, but it helps them feel more like themselves is with the more important aspect, and especially in newer journals coming out today where people talk about with all sorts of things. Even there have even been journals from psychology and sociology talk about how tattooing can help people get over cutting and
yeah,
self-harm.
yeah,
That's the incredible power it can have. And I think some people mistakenly think about the beauty side of it. Oh, of course, they have a nice tattoo there now, so they don't want to cut anymore. I don't think that's it. I think it's simply the fact that they feel a greater sense of self and a greater sense of control of that self.
yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, we work with a lot of scars
Yeah.
at Paradise. Um, surgical scars, trauma scars, burns, self-harm.
Mm.
And again, yeah, the reasons behind it are really complex. And but most of it is about, it's almost like the tattoo part of the journey is almost like the end bit.
Yeah.
And then it's that door's kind of closed, and then you get to
It sort of
move
builds a
on.
threshold, metaphorically speaking, that they get to then step over, like
Yeah, yeah,
a bridge of sorts for them.
yeah. Yeah, and it's so nice to be a part of, and I think tattooing is amazing on all
Well,
sorts
yeah,
of.
at any aspect, honestly.
Yeah, I've been tattooing like 15 years, and you just I don't know, this area that I've now tapped into. It's so special, and I just think we're giving people more than maybe what we're all realizing, if you know what I mean. Um,
I've actually often said that, and even in the first episode of the podcast, talking to my good friend Robbie Ripple from Florida, we talked about how he wished tattooers could see tattooing more like I do, where I talk about how that even without noticing trauma, that it helps people feel more like themselves. That's an incredible thing. That's an absolutely, and I think some tattooers are scared to realize that sometimes because they want it to be simple. They want it to just be like bitch bosh
yeah, and it
out the
can
door.
be,
It can
like
absolutely can't be, but at the end of the day, without tattooers wanting it to or not, this is incredibly important to people.
yeah. And I think the big thing is that you are permanently, whether it's like a real funny tattoo with all your mates and you pissed up in Ibiza, or you're having like this real, meaningful scar cover up or nipple tattoo. Us as tattoo artists, no matter what tattoo we're doing, we have permanently changed
Yeah.
somebody's body. Yes, there's laser removal, there's cover ups and all
Yeah,
that.
but laser
You've
removal,
still
at
made a
least from a
permanent
scientific
change.
aspect, laser removal never removes the tattoo completely. It can
Yeah,
make it almost invisible, but the inks, some of the particles will still be in your skin and it can still cause stuff. The only way
yeah,
to permanently remove the tattoo, and I'm sorry for the gruesome image I might give some viewers or listeners now, is to surgically remove it by cutting it out. And
Which
I've
is a
seen
super old
videos
school way of
of
doing
that
it as
getting,
well.
uh, well, they do it in a surgical setting nowadays in some hospitals. I've seen some videos from a Danish hospital here, and I can describe it the following way without grossing people too much out. I was impressed with the precision of how they can remove the tattoo down to certain bits of it, but grossed out by how deep they have to go. And it is not as shallow as you think. It's not going into like the first few layers of skin and cutting that out. No, no, it is bone deep at times.
Ooh,
Yeah,
savage.
it's gross as shit, man. It's fun. Whoa.
But yeah, that's, I think as tattoo artists, we need to understand
Yeah,
that responsibility that
the
you
impact.
are permanently changing somebody's body, sort of
Yeah.
thing. And it can be wonderful. I
I
love
think
it.
so. I mean, absolutely. I get your desire also to paint a realistic picture that it could also absolutely not be wonderful. But I think in a lot of cases, though, it can be absolutely wonderful and magical and really great. Even I'm not, as I always like to reiterate, I'm not advocating that everybody should go out and make a list of 10 deep things that happen to them they want to get tattooed. A tattoo can be absolutely magical and deeply meaningful to you without having any story to it at all. It's just about loving tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, like, most of mine don't really mean anything. I just either liked the artist's work or um
That's enough of a personal connection often that
yeah,
that'll be
yeah.
great.
Yeah. But I think that's what I love about tattooing is how like like varied it is, if you
Yeah,
like.
yeah,
You
no,
can
I
just
get
have
that.
like a silly fun one, or you can have this beautiful piece of artwork for
Yeah.
like no reason at all apart from the love of the art. Or there's this sort of healing, empowering side to things as well. Like,
Mm.
just think it's just a really wonderful form of expression, and
Yeah.
just love tattooing.
I mean, that is coming across quite a bit, I would say, Tanya. I don't think anybody's gonna watch this or listen to it and say, I'm not sure she gets it.
I do think tattooing's all right.
I suppose. I mean, it was something to do.
Okay.
You know, fucking weekdays off. What am I gonna do? No, but I mean, I really love that idea that there are people out there that really gets this, but I do think that, like you spoke about, there is a special like level of it with what you do now as well with the
Yeah.
NHS. Like that is next level, like trauma help and assistance, I would argue, to some
Yeah.
extent.
I'm super proud about the NHS thing.
I
Like I
get
never
that. I
I never
absolutely get
thought
that.
something like this would happen. But yeah, like being the first tattoo artist here in the UK to work for the NHS to do like areola and like nipple tattoos is mad, really. I still
Yeah, I
can't
can imagine
believe it
so.
happened. But I also love it, and I think it's a really exciting relationship that can now be built, and it's a real big thing for me that I want to make sure these tattoos are being done like well and
Yeah,
like safely and realistically and as like efficiently as possible. And I also think it's important that like the medical field, not even just the medical field, but kind of everyone realizes what tattooing is and what it's capable of. It's not, there can be this real stigmaed view around tattooing still, especially if you're not into tattoos or don't have them. I think there's
Mm.
still this bit of a underground, like backstreet view of what tattooing can
Yeah. I think
be.
people often underestimate it when they don't know anything about the social scientific aspect of it. That yes, it is still stigmatized. It is still prejudice based.
Yeah.
It is still not everyone, because people often hear people in the tattoo environment now, especially newer voices saying, "Oh, everybody gets tattoos now." No, it is at most 30%, not even in most countries
Oh,
that get
really?
tattoos. Yeah, it is in the UK. It's one of the bigger ones, like one of the ones with a lot
Yeah.
more getting it, and I think it's sneaking up to 28% of adults that are eligible to get tattoos that have them.
Wow, I thought it'd be
Which is
more than
still, I mean, that's still ludicrously impressive. That's almost a third of the adult population that have at least one tattoo, which I think people also underestimate. That's still a lot of fucking people. But it's not half. It's not even close to half in most countries.
needs to be more.
Jesus fuck, Tanya. I mean,
But yeah, I think that's what I like infiltrating into the NHS now. And,
right.
even within private hospitals, like I'm working at like the Nuffield as well, and like other private hospitals. And like I never thought when I first started tattooing 15 years ago that I would be working in hospitals for the NHS, I'd have been like, "You're fucking mental." But
What are you on? What are
I'm
you
like,
on,
I'm
man?
so proud,
Yeah, I
and I
get
think
that.
I just think it's brilliant, and I think
Yeah.
there's like a real turning point brewing, then kind of happening where they are starting to realize that, there are services that we
Mm.
can help with, and we understand it more, and
Yeah.
we're better equipped for it. And, tattooing is professional, it is sophisticated, and it can do these like amazing things for people
Ah.
and help people in all these ways. And yeah, I just love being one of the artists that's kind of at the forefront of that.
Yeah, but like you're saying, you're creating visibility more so than the things you might even realize yourself because people pick this up, people see this then, and then in a massive country like the UK, the NHS is, famous all over the world because people look to the UK sometimes to talk about the NHS, what's going on with it, what system, history of it. So seeing somebody working in the NHS as a tattoo artist and doing this incredible work to help people that have been through traumatic experiences, such as breast cancer, that creates visibility of what tattooing can do, of who's in it, what is the culture of it is, all that stuff
Yeah.
gains more visibility in a more positive way then.
I don't think I've fully absorbed like what a huge thing this is. I know
Yeah.
it's a big thing that I'm doing it, but when you're just in the moment and I'm like, fuck
Oh
it,
yeah, I can imagine.
I'm tattooing in the hospitals.
I think it's very healthy to have a bit of the blinds on and just, get used to it at first before you figure out, oh shit, this is actually
This is a lot of
this
responsibility.
is a lot. Jeez. Fuck. You take this. I'm gonna go for air.
But yeah, I think it's amazing, like that the NHS are now recognizing our
Yeah.
industry as something that's like helpful and
Yeah,
be part of a person's like treatment plan. And
absolutely.
yeah, I just think it's a really super exciting thing to
It's
be a part of.
it's about as excited as I got the first time I read some in a psychology journal. The psychologist actually recommended that. I mean, they didn't say like everybody go get a tattoo if you have trauma, but they said like, hey, this can actually be healthy if it's thought through and if it's reflected upon,
Yeah,
and not done while you, for example, I think they used manic depression as the example, where they said, hey, if you're not having an episode at the moment, it can actually be very healthy because you can be a right of
yeah.
mind and it can help you maintain something. It can help you regain some control. It's just about knowing when and where.
And I think that brings up a really good point, to be honest. And it was something I wasn't overly like prepared for when I first started doing it.
Mhm.
Is you are dealing with a lot of complex emotions
Aye.
and a
Mhm.
lot of complex trauma. And obviously, me as a tattoo artist, I'm not qualified to deal with that. And it was obviously a lot for me to obviously you hear people's stories and you're in close proximity with people while you're tattooing them, and you're absorbing a lot of people's trauma. As much as it's a positive
Mhm.
experience and the outcomes, amazing, you are dealing and absorbing like a lot of trauma from people. And I think one of those things, like you say, is when people aren't actually emotionally ready for
Yeah.
the tattoo. And I think they want the tattoo because they want to like replace, they just want to go back to how they were. But that's never, with a mastectomy and sort of breast cancer, or any kind of trauma to the
Yeah,
skin, really,
yeah.
it's never going to be like what it was before that trauma, because everything's different now. So
Mm.
that's been a really hard thing to navigate for me personally, is being able to identify those sorts of
Aye.
things and have those difficult conversations with people. I have had to turn people away and sort of say, look, I don't feel comfortable tattooing you right now. I don't feel like the time is right. And this is a permanent thing. I have a responsibility to meet their expectations and obviously make sure they're going to be happy with it long term. And I think
Aye.
until you're like emotionally ready for that step and that acceptance, and you're never going to be happy with what's done, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
It's
Um,
that it has to be something other than an easy fix solution. Like there
yeah,
has to be. I get it. They have to accept it first. For example, as you talk about that, it won't be like you can't magically with with a tattoo machine make their old nipple reappear, as it were.
yeah,
It's not going to be how it works. Whether they go for a replicated nipple tattoo or whether they go for something else, it will be different in
yeah.
one way or the other, and there has to be an acceptance of that first. that they can
Yeah.
move on, but they can't move back in time.
Yeah. And I think it brings you back to this whole, you do grieve and you
Yeah.
mourn, like, the body you had or the person you were, like, especially something as huge as breast cancer.
Mm.
Um, that's like that's a life-changing thing that has
Aye.
happened as well.
And I
Or
should
even
say, often results in an amputation. Like, let's not mince words. It may be called mastectomy, but there is
it,
an
it is an
amputation.
amputation, yeah. And I think as well, like, obviously this is all based off stuff I hear from my clients.
Mm.
It kind of brings you back to the aftercare, if you
Aye.
like with sort of other amputations and amputees, there is that aftercare,
Aye.
but there isn't with a mastectomy. And
Oh.
it is sort of a very similar, like, emotional process that person's going through. Yes, it was
Yeah.
part of a treatment plan to, treat cancer or prevent cancer or anything like that, but that those still same amputated emotions, if you like, are
Mm.
still happening with that person, and the
Yeah.
aftercare for them isn't always readily available.
Oh, that is horrible to hear.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
saddening.
Like, it's not everyone of
No, 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 of course, but it's still sad to think that there are people out there somewhat regularly that can't get the aftercare they may need after such an
yeah,
experience. Because especially when you think about that, it's very I don't want to mince words here, but it is quite commonly known nowadays how much identity can be tied up, especially for women, in the breasts. Like that there's a lot of sense of self and femininity and all
God,
that stuff.
yeah,
Like we turn into that. Even for some women that you don't even buy into the heteronormative gender ideals, sometimes can still feel a great sense of loss and grief at losing a part of their body, because it is a
yeah,
part of your body. And
absolutely,
even people that go through gender transition still need a period to adjust after, even if that's the desired look they're going for,
yeah,
which shows how mentally prepared and resilient and how much help you may need when going through stuff like that. Because
yeah,
permanent change always has to be dealt with. And to turn it back to stuff I've said before, that's the same reason why I often tell younger people, especially, that don't start out with really visible tattoos. Because permanent change to the body needs adjustment. You need to get used to now you look different. And whether it's a great thing or you really love this tattoo or whether you regretted it, doesn't matter. There will be more people looking at you, both negatively and positively. There will be a new reaction to you. You will see yourself in a new light too, hopefully
yeah,
positive, but there's still an adjustment period. There's still
yeah,
time to get used to it. And that goes even more so when you've lost a bit of your body.
absolutely, yeah. And it kind of brings you back to the um making sure that person's like ready to have it
Yeah.
done as well, sort of thing. We have a bit of a minimum wait time anyway, just for
Yeah.
the nipple tattoos in particular, um for, like, scar tissue reasons and things like that as well. But also
Yeah.
I think you need that time to sort of like process what's happened as well, and be in a place where you're ready to then make another permanent change,
Mm.
which is what a tattoo is. But
Yeah.
all that kind of aside, it's still this amazing,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
it's still this an amazing thing for people, and
Aye.
gives people like themselves back again, or
Mm.
like closes a chapter, or can like signify a new beginning for people. Like, I just feel like tattooing is like so positive for people and on so
Aye.
many levels as well.
Oh, you
Yeah.
won't hear me argue against that. That's all. That's the whole. That's part of the point of this podcast. Of us doing this for people. But no, I fully agree. It's absolutely incredible tattooing what it does for people, and that's whether it's deeply thought through, massively planned out tattoo pieces that have some historic meaning to the person's life experience, whether it's to get over trauma, or whether it's just a deep love for being yourself and wanting to have tattoos. It's all brilliant and awesome. Like,
Yeah, I love it. And I just love now, like huge organizations like the
mm,
NHS, or, these sort of huge breast surgeons and other private medical
yeah,
facilities,
yeah,
even private healthcare insurers are all recognizing that tattooing is like this
mm,
important service. It is something that's part of a
yeah,
person's treatment plan. And also that they're embracing tattoo artists as well. Like they
Mm.
can learn from us. We have something to bring to the table, like within like the medical world. It's just, yeah, it's mad, but I love it. I just love that this is
I
where
do
it's
rather. I'm sorry for
going.
laughing, but I do rather enjoy the it's mad reaction constantly. It's just such a British but very jovial reaction to something really great that's happening. You can't fully understand. It's mad. It's so mad.
Yeah, we do. When I look back on like what I've achieved in the past few years and what like
It's
Paradise
incredible.
has achieved, yeah, it's mad. But I love it.
Well, I get why it is quite impressive to say the least. I mean, you're the first tattoo hired by the NHS. And you're not even 40 yet. I mean, you've
No.
tattooed for
Oh
15
God,
years and
it's
you've done such a remarkable impact with what you've done and the expertise you've uh, oh, my English failed me for a moment there. The expertise you've accumulated that the NHS has even recognized this, which means that at some level the government is also recognizing the positive impacts of this, or might start to at least,
yeah. I mean,
which
I
is
hope
incredible
so
to think about. I would
because
hope so too.
it is a really important part of someone's journey, and I
Yeah.
think it should be, properly recognised and done properly, um,
Mm.
you know, by proper experts and professionals that are excelling in their field, and it's done safely with the best equipment, and as long term as possible. And I think now sort of being part of the NHS and working within different private hospitals and medical facilities, just having a voice within those organizations now to help educate on what tattooing is, what we're capable of, what we all do, I think is a really exciting time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do tell me if you ever need a sociologist as a like boxing partner or ring partner for that one. I'd love to
Yeah,
teach the.
maybe, yeah.
I'd love to go around teaching the NHS and other organizations the positive impact of tattooing and helping with that because it is incredible. Like,
It is.
just to be clear, in case anybody's not following along, because me and Tanya are very excited right now. We're not saying all tattooing should be done in by the NHS or by medical professionals. We're just saying it should be recognized how it can help also with these both mental and physical traumatic experiences and getting over them and all that and assisting and healing and stuff.
Yeah.
But by all means, I don't want ever to have any of my tattoos done in the NHS unless it's medically
Yeah. You're not
necessary,
going to
to be
get like
honest.
your sleeve done in the
Yeah,
NHS. Like
exactly. You're not gonna go in and be like, I
nails.
just want think like a massive chest piece. Like And then if next time we get started at the back, I mean, I do know that some people are copping out and getting full anesthesia while getting a back piece done nowadays over in LA, but
Crazy.
ooh. Actually, it would be fun to get your idea there, because now you are tattooing the NHS and you are arguably, as I see it, doing it in a more medically safe way than putting people under for 8 hours.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the whole anesthetic thing. I guess I don't
I've
really know
talked to
enough
different
about
people
it,
about it
but
and some medical professionals. One medical professional, I actually, funny enough, a surgeon I interviewed from Las Vegas, who's the most tattooed medical professional I've ever known. We talked about it, and he's a plastic surgeon there. And has done also trauma surgery where he's reattached fucking limbs after accidents or gotten
wow.
bullets out of people after after gunfights. So he's done a lot of stuff. He's having to do it even to the face. He's an amazing man called John Brocious. Do go check out the episode if you want to as well. But we spoke off camera about this a little bit, and I think maybe even on camera. And he said, "Well, technically, you can die from from being under anesthetic that long. So you're taking a massive risk getting tattooed under
Yeah.
anesthetic like that."
Yeah,
I mean,
I
of
guess
course, it
the
can be safe,
idea
and
of it
most
is
people won't
appealing,
die,
but I'm
but the
not.
risk is there. The risk is there, especially the
Yeah.
longer you're under anesthetic,
It
the
just seems
higher the risk
really
is.
extreme just for like just to have your tattoo done as well.
Well, my personal biggest gripe with it is that I'm there for the banter as much as the tattoo when I get tattooed, as you might be able to tell from my talkative nature. So I would lose that, and I think that's part of it. Part of it is sitting there talking shit with your tattoo artist and getting to know
Yeah,
each
like
other
it's the
and having,
experience, isn't it?
yeah,
Like
exactly, yeah.
watching it, I don't know, you can't watch your back piece come together, but Yeah, I
But I mean,
don't
I'm
know.
I'm also. I mean, I'll happily admit that Tanya is more old school than me, but I am old school at this point, and I think that you should have trial by fire with some of the first tattoos before you even take a painkiller. You should at least go through some without
Yeah,
any
I mean, I'm
pain
a
relief at
complete
all.
pussy at getting tattooed now. Like when I was younger, I
You
was
mean
a bit
like
bad,
all other tattoo
but
artists?
I kind of feel like you have got to earn it a little bit as
A little bit.
well.
I mean, I feel like that. I'm the progressive sociologist here. Even I'm like, you gotta earn it. You gotta go through some
Yeah,
at least. You gotta feel this.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the going under anesthetic, like numbing cream is one thing, but yeah, going to that
Yeah,
extreme.
numbing cream,
Not,
that's a whole
not sure
technical
how I
aspect
feel
of it
about
being
it.
very unregulated and all that stuff, and there's still some trouble, and some work fine, some don't, some are allergic. It's still the wild west a bit with numbing cream. So I would say be careful if anybody wants to
Yeah,
use that.
I'm not a fan of all that either, to be
No,
honest.
I'm about.
Yeah.
And you can take some painkillers, but you gotta be aware. Talk to your artist about it, what they think would recommend, because they'll know more and have tried different stuff with different clients and that. Because I mean, for some
But
people,
then
it
I
could be enough
think,
to take a paracetamol an hour before, but that will also run out if you're getting a big
yeah,
tattoo.
and also paracetamol's going to do fuck all.
Yeah,
Let's be
exactly.
honest. Um, and I think if you want to take painkiller, like you need to take the good stuff, don't you, really, for it to do anything.
Ah,
But
true.
like us, like we're not medical professionals.
No,
So
not at all.
if something, like you say, if something did go wrong or something happened,
Yeah,
like
that's the
we're not
thing, man.
medically trained. Like,
Woo! It's
yeah,
better. I'd say it's much
grey
better
area, isn't
to,
it, all of
and I'm
that.
sorry to say this, suck it up and go through it. And it does feel like liquid fire getting poured into the skin in certain areas of the body, but it's worth it after.
Yeah. I'm a massive hypocrite because I can sit like 20 minutes and then I'm like, no, I'm done. So I'm like the worst person to be talking about this because I'm terrible at
I
getting tattooed.
I'm very happy to say that following my own rules, I also accidentally got the two of the worst places done first. So my
What did
chest
you got
and
like
my
rib?
ribs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both ribs are already done. Not all the way down here. So that is gonna be fun someday down the the love handles, which is gonna hurt like a fucking cunt. But at least I've tried it. So I know what to expect when it's really,
Yeah.
really bad. And that's helped me sit through some bigger tattoos much easier. Because I can only do 2.5 hours on the ribs back in the day. And I can only do like 3 hours on the chest at most at one setting.
I think that's impressive in itself, to be
Thank you
fair.
very much. I will always take a compliment from a tattoo artist when it comes to how well I sit. But I will say this: sat 8 hours at a time on the arm sometimes
Oh
because
no.
it big,
My
and
latest
that
tattoo,
also
I
hurts like
sat
a
2 hours
fucker.
on
But
my arm and I was like, nah, I'm done.
you hypocrite!
Terrible. I'm the client we all hate.
But I think we're digressing a bit. But I have to say this: having met so many tattoo artists from all over the world by now throughout my entire adult life, working for magazines, all sort of shit. I've never met a worse client to tattoo artist than another fucking tattoo artist.
Yeah, we're all
Like,
terrible.
and everybody says it. The old timers, the younger guys, the people in your generation from fucking Britain, US, Australia, Japan, everybody
Yeah.
says the same thing. Nobody's worse than a tattoo artist.
Yeah, I completely agree. I am the worst. Yeah. Ask anyone who's tattooed me.
You must have been somewhat all right sometimes, don't
Yeah,
you?
I think like when I first started getting tattooed, so I wasn't really tattooing like myself at that point. I was better.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, I think I've just always been a wimp.
Well, you've gotten through it though.
It hurts. Anyone who tells you it
Yeah,
doesn't is
hey, I'm not
lying.
saying it doesn't. Well, oh, let's not get into that. I'm usually very much like I don't get angry at people posting shit online. I rarely ever get annoyed with anything. One thing that does piss me off is when people go and say, "Oh, it didn't hurt," and then they have a 10-minute tattoo.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
It
I
hurt.
could sit fine for the first 10 minutes too.
Oh no, I don't even like the first 10 minutes. Oh, I love it. I just like it when it's done. I
I mean,
always
I
say
will say
like, I
I
like
don't
having
like the
tattoos,
process
but I
much
hate
either.
getting tattoos.
Yeah, no, same here. I do like the shop hang, but I do hate the process somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's part of it.
Selling
You
it
just
really
take
well,
it in
aren't I?
stride.
I mean, so great.
You are
You've got to
you're
have
gonna
it
be
done.
swimming in clients after this.
Oh dear.
You want to come in and get tortured for half an hour at a time?
I think that's why I'm sympathetic with my clients when they
I
are in
think so
pain
too.
because I know what it's like as well, and
You're like,
I'm
oh,
terrible for
tell me about it.
it.
I do love that. I did have one artist once that did that where I was like, oh, this is hurt. Tell me about it. Just kept it to me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's trying to toot you on the head and everything. He's like, fucking tell me about it, mate. It's like a cunt. Let's get going.
I love
I
that.
mean, but that's exciting. This proves my point. The band is worth it. Like the band is all worth it. That's why I wouldn't go under. As painful as this, the band is worth
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Because I remember every single tattoo that I've had done as well.
Same
You
here.
remember like who did it, where you were.
The
Like,
hangouts, the whoopses, the victories, everything, you know, all the funny stories and all that shit. Because
yeah.
weird enough, weird stuff fucking happens in tattoo studios, especially if you're there for a day session. For better or worse, weird stuff fucking happens.
I think I'm so like accustomed to the weird stuff because we get
I
asked
think
this
so.
all the time as tattoo artists. What's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing you've ever tattooed? Or what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened? But I think you're so like
Yeah.
numb to
Yeah.
or
I think that might
desensitized
exactly
to
be
it
it.
all because it happens all the
You
time. I'm like, I don't know really.
you get culturally numb to that sort of stuff for being in
Yeah,
it
like,
so
nothing
much.
feels shocking anymore. Like,
We have been in the 15 years as well, so you know.
oh, I know, don't. It makes me feel so old.
If it helps you at all, I just turned 34. I know it's not close to
Ugh,
40, but
hate you.
I think I've been very nice in this interview. Can't be the first. You can't be the first guest I have to say they hate me on air. That feels horrible, Tanya. No, but to bring us a bit back to the point, if we
Yeah, we've
could,
digressed a
if
bit
we
there.
could find any more. No, actually, it's quite great because we do also. I can't keep you all day. As much as I would like to. Um, so we could round up a bit, but I'm curious about one point before we round off, sort of. What did get you into tattoos originally? Because we've talked a bit about how you got into tattooing, but what got you fascinated about tattoos themselves originally, if you can remember?
It's a bit of a boring story, really.
That's all right. We
I've
already
just
had a laugh,
always
so it's
been
okay if you
fascinated with
snooze.
it.
Yeah.
I can't really pinpoint like when it actually happened. I think it's always kind of been there. Like my
Yeah.
dad's covered in tattoos. He's got like
Ah.
the naked women and like swallows on his chest.
Old
All
school,
like
old school.
your typical old boy tattoos, if you
Oh,
like.
for fuck's sake. Yeah.
So I think I was always fascinated by them from being, tiny.
Right.
Um, and then I think, yeah, just sort of, people who come into your life as you grow up, like have been covered in tattoos, and it's sort of influenced me. And
Oh,
I think just like the history and the culture and how like free tattooing was as well. I always wanted to travel. Like I knew I never wanted to be in an office, and it was just I always get
mm.
itchy feet sort of thing. So I think tattooing was always this like a mate I could just be free and do what I want and be creative and
Oh,
not conform. And I think that was always what kind of appealed to me, sort of thing. I've always been sort of creative, and but there was never anything that like fulfilled the creativity. There was
no.
always walls, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think it's always with creative people, you need to find the specific outlet that speaks to you.
Yeah, I think like tattooing is my medium, if you like.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely agree there. I think that's a very good way to look at it. That you definitely creative. I mean, one should fucking hope so. But you know, you find your outlet. Just like for others, it might be film, or it might be drawing, or it might be animating, or whatever. You know.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
find your medium, and some people find multiple, others find one thing. You know, but it's
And I
all
think what I
creativity.
love is like you're always learning. Like
Ah,
nobody masters tattooing ever because everyone you tattoo is different. Everyone's skin's different. Every situation is different. Like the environment's different. Like there's always some variable factor. So there's
mm,
always something to learn.
yeah.
And I think like I enjoy learning new things. That I enjoy building things. I think that's why I've like enjoyed paradise, like, building a studio. And I like that sort of, I don't know, just, yeah, learning stuff. And I
Well,
think
that's
that's
good.
what I like about tattooing, is that you never go stale, because
No.
the equipment evolves and the inks evolve, and now doing the medical stuff, it like took it to a whole other level. So you've like learnt more about the science of skin and scar tissue, and like I've delved into more of like the color
Yeah, because
theory,
you
and
must be
like,
able
there's
to
just
learn a
all
bit
these
from
things.
some of the dermatologists and people like that you might run into as well,
Yeah,
and
and I
what they
think
can
that's
teach you
another
about
thing I
that.
love about being in the hospitals now, is that I get to like geek out and expand my knowledge even more in an area
Yeah.
that wasn't accessible to me
Yeah, exactly. And you
at
then get
first.
to bring
Yeah.
that into the tattoo industry.
Yeah.
You sort of become a conduit there for because you can then gain some of the knowledge that others might not have had access to that can help you. For example, as you talked about, you know more about how do you tattoo on scar tissue, what's to do, what not to do, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I love all of that really. And then I sort of like the education side of things,
Mm.
obviously, like being in tattooing a bit longer now and more of a seasoned artist sort of thing, and getting to a certain age as well. Like I
Yeah,
want to help pass that knowledge on as
yeah.
well. So that's why I've started developing like the training side of things and
That was what I was
helping
going
other
to
art.
ask you as well. So really great you got to that
uh,
because are you then training people within the hospital setting now to do these types of tattoos?
There's talks going on
All
because
right.
nurses and stuff do the areola tattooing, and this could be like a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But they haven't been given like the training that they should have had, sort of
Yeah.
thing. So I think, you know, they need that support. For me, in an
Yeah.
ideal world, like tattoo artists should be doing nipple tattoos. That's
Right.
that's what I feel it should be in an ideal world. But unfortunately, this is bigger than us.
Yeah.
Like 1 in 7 women are
And it's a
diagnosed
big
with breast
beast,
cancer
it's a big
every
beast,
year.
both breast cancer and the NHS. So it's a bit.
Yeah, it's bigger than this now, and I think that's one thing I've kind of like realized, so that like the next best thing I can do to
Mm,
help is make sure that any kind of medical professionals that are doing the nipple tattooing are
yeah.
doing it well and have had like the proper education from someone who does it, and like who cares as well. I
Mm.
don't want to train you for 2 days and then off you go. Like, need that continued support. This is what's going on um
Nice.
over here. Yeah.
But I mean
Uh,
I mean, as far as compromises go, that's still a pretty good one that you at least get to ensure they are properly trained.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's sort of, being involved in the NHS now, and they're seeing what can be achieved when you do know
Mm.
what you're doing. And so it's all very like early stages, early talks and things,
Uh,
but I think it's important that the NHS is supported in this kind
well,
of way.
if it gets a lot bigger, you might have to bring on board some other, you know, tattoo
Like
artists.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the girls at my studio, I've trained up a
Uh,
couple of the girls at the studio. They do the areola tattooing.
nice.
Like the plan is to sort of,
Bring them
get
in
them
as
on
well.
board as well. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, the sort of the education side, I'm really enjoying that as well, like passing that knowledge on and like helping other people develop their skills. And so yeah, I think there's just all these other little avenues in tattooing that I just really enjoy as well.
Well, it sounds like it's going swimmingly developing it and all that. It's quite a new frontier you get to be part of exploring right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a new area in tattooing, and like I say, that there's a few of us that do it. There's not many.
Yeah.
There are more of us that do this kind of tattooing, and I think it's brilliant. Like, and I'm really proud to be, like I say, at the forefront
Mm.
with all these other artists that really care about it as well. And I think it's
Yeah.
a really exciting time in tattooing, and I think it's this huge like evolutional step that's going on, sort of
Mm.
thing.
I very much hope you're right because it sounds like it's going in a really great direction if that's the case,
Yeah, it's got
to be
so
honest.
much potential. And it is, like
Absolutely.
we say, it's so helpful for people. And I think now it's just important to like, yeah, raise that awareness to
Mm.
what tattooing can do, but also make sure it's being done like safely and
Well,
efficiently.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that is, I mean, I'll say a lot about the NHS, but safety does still seem to be a main concern of theirs.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm enjoying having all these talks with them. And like I say, I'm learning
Oh,
stuff from the NHS and I'm
yeah.
learning stuff from nurses and surgeons. And like, I think it's just I'm excited for what like this fusion is going to bring, if you like, this sort of tattooing medical
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah.
No, I mean, you underplay it so much. I'm very excited for you. This sounds amazing to me. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this is amazing. This is great stuff. No, don't need to be so stiff upper lip about it.
He's mad.
I might have to subtitle the episode that now. It's mad. First 2 hours in the NHS. It's mad.
I love that.
But I have to round us up a bit, even though we've been having a laugh. It's been I think we've gone around this quite deep and very important topic in quite a jovial and very healthy kind of way. But I do still want to round us off on a possibly even lighter and certainly more silly note that I've just thought of. Do you have to wear scrubs now when you tattoo at the NHS?
So I didn't have to. The NHS said they were happy for me to like wear whatever I was comfortable in. But I do wear scrubs when I'm there.
Right.
Yeah.
So sort of to be part of the environment, part of the culture, sort of.
I think as well, it's like you're in that environment, aren't you? So
Yeah.
private hospitals, I wear scrubs as well. To be honest, they're really fucking comfortable. Like
I've heard that said before by people that are really
at
comfy.
Paradise were like, "Can we have Paradise scrubs and we can just wear them to work?" And I was like, "We're not really a tattoo studio then if we've all got scrubs on, but they are really comfy."
I mean, it could be up for debate. Could be the whole vibe, maybe.
Yeah. But I did manage to find so Carhartt makes scrubs.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh well, I've got cool scrubs. So
there's not gonna be all right. There's not gonna be custom made Buxton.
Yeah, not yet. Maybe one day.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's the next one.
But yeah, I just felt like sort of patients coming into the hospitals and stuff. There's probably
because it's also recognizable for them. There's a comfort to them. There's a comfort to it too, because it's recognizable for them that okay, getting tattoo, it's in a medical setting. Okay, it's definitely in a medical setting because she's wearing a scrubs as well.
Yeah, I kind of felt
I get that.
Reassure patients a bit more than me just rocking up in my corn t-shirt and baggy jeans sort of thing. So
right, you want to get these nipples done, love?
Yeah. I didn't want to actually be the stereotypical tattoo artist that they were all expecting. So.
Can you imagine? Just rocking up, being like, all right, love, sunglasses off.
Yeah.
Let's get these puppies sorted. Jesus. Only in a sketch would that work. Like I mean, that would be an amazing. I think that's weirdly how some people may misinterpret it when they hear about it if they don't know any better. It's gonna be something to us rocking up, cigarette.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this
sorted. What loads of us are like, though, isn't it? Like we all say it's typical, but
I mean, it's not the norm anymore, but it's not far enough removed that it's rare.
Yeah.
Let's put it
not
like
totally
that.
Out there, is it?
No, not at all. I can't get an image out of my head. You rocking up with sunglasses and a cigarette, just be like
down the hospital corridor, like.
Want to get this scene to you, love? Let's say we blast these nipples now.
Get them puppies out.
Come on, whip it out, love. That's even more funny in your dialect. Just you sitting there all peppy, going like, "All right, whip the puppies out." Oh man, you sound like the weirdest builder ever now. All right, get your tits out, love.
I was doing really well at being professional. I fell at the last hurdle.
Yeah. Better you than me in this setting. In this particular topic, I think that's better. I mean, I did lead it on. I set up the fucking. I very much set you up to fall there, to be honest.
The joint effort.
Oh man, I'm almost crying right now. Oh, right. Here at the end. First of all, very sincerely, let me thank you so much for being on here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I've
It's
enjoyed it
fun.
so thoroughly, and I really felt we got very much deeply into this topic, and it's so important that people know more about it.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy about that. And we did
Oh,
have a
no,
good
I'm
laugh
really
along the
pleased
way,
to.
which is also makes it greater, you know.
No, I think it's an important topic as well, and like you say,
Absolutely.
still people still don't really know about it or fully understand it. So yeah, thank you for doing it.
Hey,
I think it's good to get the word
my pleasure. And thank you for the tears and all that.
out. You're welcome.
But Tanya, please, here at the end, let people know where can they find you. I know Paradise Tattoo, do plug that too. And
Oh
where
yeah.
else people can find your stuff and that.
So you can find me on Instagram. It's just Tanya Buxton, or one word.
For
Um,
Scandinavians, Tanya with a Y, not a J.
oh yes, Tanya with a Y, not an I. Um, and then there's my studio, Paradise Tattoo Studio. You can find us if you just Google it. We'll come straight up.
Mm.
Paradise Tattoo Studio in Cheltenham.
Yeah.
And you can also find Paradise on Instagram as well. It's just Paradise_Cheltenham. Um, and I also have a breast cancer. Well, it's not just breast cancer now; it's for everyone. I have a charity that helps fund these tattoos for
Oh,
people that
that's what you meant. I thought you'd become an
surgery.
oncologist, but I thought for one moment there.
Something else for the resume. Yeah, I founded a charity as well called
Oh,
the
nice.
Mastectomy Tattooing Alliance. So we help
Nice.
fund areola and mastectomy tattoos for anyone who's had
Oh,
mastectomy surgery. So whether that's breast cancer, BRCA, or gender affirming. Um,
that's
and that's on
awesome.
Instagram as well, just Mastectomy Tattooing Alliance, or one word.
I'll do my best to. Well, I listened back to this before I put them out, so I'll put, of course, link to all of this as well in the video
Oh, thank you.
descriptions and that. And
Thank you.
once again, thank you so much. And to anybody who's been watching or listening in the episode, we'll see you around.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode with the awesome Tanya Buxton from the UK. It's incredible to think about what tattoos can be used for when it comes to healing and, well, essentially mental health, but also as part of the medical system in a way, where even if it's not, like me and Tanya talked about, exact replica of, for example, nipple tattoos, as we spoke a lot about, it can still be beneficial to the mental health of a person to have a tattoo help them get through the mental healing process, which can be quite arduous and long for many different cases and people. And this might be a topic we'll get back to in the future, because there's some interesting research on how tattoos, for example, have helped people get over tendencies to self-harm in some cases, more precisely cutting in some research cases. But I won't get too into that right now, but I will say that is a topic I also want to get more into later on. Next time, however, we're returning to our long-running sub-series, Tattooed Academics, with an awesome scientist within the biochemistry from the US called Robert Schaefer, who is, to say the least, quite heavily body-modded, both with piercings, tongue splits, and, of course, heavily tattooed. So that's going to be a bit of the same old from the show, but not any less interesting, I would say. As always, I'll see you in a couple of weeks.